I give you Sean Hannity. Last week, you played a clip of Sean Hannity talking about what did he say last week specifically?
So is this part of his comments are included here, Bradley? Or is that true?
No, this is just his response.
Okay.
Okay. So last week, Sean Hannity went on his radio show, I think as the news was breaking or right after, and he talked about how this was all socialism and Green New Deal politics to that effect. But what he really ended up saying, I'm trying to find the exact quote here, but what he ended up saying was that my employees, some of my employees might benefit from this, and that is wrong. That is socialism. And so it was him admitting out loud in the moment that he doesn't want good things for his employees. He wants more coercive power over them in the form of crushing debt. So that allows someone like Sean Hannity and other bosses to drive down wages. It also allows them to keep certain employees more hostage to their current situation.
Of course.
So they don't
they can't
rise up
they
too
need
much.
the money
right.
too much.
They're compelled.
They need the money if they're having to pay an extra $300 a month in student loan servicing, $200 a month, $100 a month. That just means that they don't have the ability to quit a job where their boss is a dick. And
the quote was, "We have a lot of young people that work on my TV show. They're not making $125,000, which is the cutoff for receiving this relief. They're now eligible to get, in some cases, up to $20,000, and in other cases, $10,000. This is new Green Deal radical socialism." So
Hannity got a lot of pushback.
He makes $45 million a year.
He doesn't pay his producers six figures. I mean, okay.
Well, and his producer
that $45 million is what he gets from his TV show and his radio, because he also is a slumlord too, as far as I know. Like he bought a lot of distressed properties and is got,
25 is from Fox News.
Okay, well, God knows how many he makes with all his endorsements and whatnot. But so here he is having to backtrack a little bit, but his producers. I wonder how they joke about this in the office, but look at this exchange.
I don't know if you noticed the media mistook some words that I said about this. I was talking about myself and how when I got out of, when I ran out of money and I got out of college because I didn't have any money to continue, that I still had to pay off my debt at a time where I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I ended up writing a check, $58.05 every month to Jamaica Savings Bank. And I paid off my loan, and it wasn't easy to do. This basically, if you have a $125,000 income level limit, there's nobody that gets out of school that is, and unless you went to law school or you have some very specific skill, is going to make that kind of money. And so everybody starts out, but they also cap it at 5% of what your income is, which is pretty low for somebody starting out. Although I would advise people to get rid of their debt as quickly as they can. That's just my own humble advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do what your own financial advisors tell you to do.
So what was the problem? The fact that
pause it for 1 second. I mean, just first of all, how like he's meandering here. First of all, if he's going to cite his own loan, I want to know what the amount was. I want to know what the interest was. He's paying $58 a month for, 2 years. You have people who have been tied up in debt for decades. Interest rates that are just exponentially soaking people for money. And the idea that like 5% income is a little bit too low, you should be servicing this debt.
You need to budget. The kids just need to budget. They need to look at a spreadsheet. And if they're unable to do so, they need to hire a financial advisor who will tell them what to do.
I want more details about his thing, but he's sitting here meandering around. He's not unclear. He's so off, back-footed here.
Yeah. I like that the idea that someone who's paying the minimum on their loans, like right after college, also has a financial advisor. I mean, maybe I'm just behind on this.
You should really pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Continue.
School that is, and unless you went to law school or you have some very specific skill, is going to make that kind of money. And so everybody starts out, but they also capped it at 5% of what your income is, which is pretty low for somebody starting out. Although I would advise people to get rid of their debt as quickly as they can. That's just my own humble advice.
Okay.
I'm not a financial advisor. Do what your own financial advisors tell you to do.
So what was the problem? The fact that you could commiserate?
Oh, the fact was Hannity doesn't even want his own employees to get free college tuition or
no, you don't. You want us to believe in the American way, which is capitalism and freedom. And quite frankly, I don't even know what a college education is worth these days, considering what they're teaching our kids. So as far as I'm concerned, a trade might be a much better path at this point.
Well, it's capped at 5%. What I'm saying is that every other person.
This is like they're having two separate conversations. Like this is clearly one of those moments. And look, I'm in the same business. Where you said, look, I'm going to be talking about this again, chime in. And she's going to say, well, I think it's about the American way. And oh yeah, say that. But he's like trying to go back to the 5% thing there. What freedom is infringed by having $10,000 or $20,000 worth of debt forgiven? It's the opposite.
The freedom
debt literally is. I mean, it's almost like I'm in debt to you. I'm in servitude to you.
Yeah,
I am, in fact, in some way, entrapped by you. That's what literally it is.
Yeah.
It's like the language
debt
is actually
like a 21st century indentured servitude to a degree.
Not even 21st century. I mean, look, this is what debt is. You have a restriction on your freedom. $10,000 gives you a little bit more freedom. If it gets rid of your debt, it gives you a little bit more freedom. If it gets rid of part of your debt, it gives you a little bit of freedom. I mean, if you're going to talk about freedom and liberty, having less debt is literally that.
Yeah. I mean, from another perspective, freedom is collecting interest on humanity's need to educate itself. So.
Exactly. Well, that's the capitalism. I mean, it is, but then he goes back to the 5%. Go back a little bit. This is also very odd.
I thought she was going to be one of the producers who got the student loan forgiveness, but she sounds as out of touch as Hannity. So I'm not sure.
What her producer named Linda McLaughlin. I imagine if she's on air, I think she's probably not like a line or
Well, this is we need some cover here.
Yeah,
but we've played Hannity clips from his radio program before. Have we ever heard his producer weigh in?
No.
Occasionally.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally. I hadn't, but my guess is that he was more than willing to have his producer weigh in on this topic after throwing.
When he looks at his ratings and realizes that there's no women listening to him, he has his tries to make it seem like let's do a Sam and Diane thing from Cheers. Go ahead, continue.
You don't. You want us to believe in the American way, which is capitalism and freedom. And quite frankly, I don't even know what a college education is worth these days, considering what they're teaching our kids. So as far as I'm concerned, a trade might be a much better path.
Incidentally, if you went to a higher education trade place, they would also relieve your debt.
%. What I'm saying is that every other person that came before them that took out student loan debt, in other words, freely entered into an agreement to pay it back, should not expect others to pay off their debt.
Exactly right.
Pause it. I was raised by a bankruptcy attorney. There is absolutely no other situation in this country where there is no avenue to relieve your debt, except for student debt in this country. Donald Trump went bankrupt multiple times. I'm sure Hannity got PPP. That loan was forgiven. This happens all the time, every day. I don't know how many bankruptcies are declared every day. Chapter 7s, Chapter 11s, personal bankruptcies, corporate bankruptcies. That means that your debt gets renegotiated. You get protection from the court to renegotiate your debt. Your creditors will not be made whole unless you liquidate everything. And even then, generally they're not, because if they could be, it wouldn't be much of an issue. So it is completely the American way to have debt reduced. It's really just a question of who gets that debt reduction.
And just real quickly, what's also the American way is the false notion that this is some sort of zero-sum freedom game where he says that you're going to be paying for debt relief. No one's paying for it. Nobody. The person that is the entity that is choosing not to seek repayment is the federal government, and there's no trade-off in terms of taxation or anything like that for anyone else.
Continue.
Much better path at this point.
Well, it's capped at 5%. What I'm saying is that every other person that came before them that took out student loan debt, in other words, freely entered into an agreement to pay it back, should not expect others to pay off their debt.
Exactly right.
That's all there is to it. And I'm speaking from my own experience at a time in my life when I had no money and was living paycheck to paycheck, didn't have a safety net of any kind. There was no government program ready to help me out if I wasn't able to pay back my student loan debt. And I paid it back. And in the end, I actually think it builds character.
Oh.
In the end, I think if you make a deal, you make an agreement, it's like, oh, pay off my car, pay off my mortgage. You know, where does this stop?
Where does it end? Exactly right. And I think we're seeing that right now.
And why should people that paid off their debt be forced to pay off other people's debt?
That guy from last week where we were playing that sound from a couple of years ago where he talked to Senator Warren and he said, you know,
right.
Yeah, that, I remember that. That was completely set up.
You know,
completely set up. That was completely set up. I remember that during the campaign. A complete setup.
Yeah, he went up to her and said, if I already paid mine off, will you?
Do you hear people going around and whining about the fact that other people are going bankrupt, that they get debt protection there? Were people bitching about the PPP loans being forgiven? No,
maybe they should call his buddy Trump and see what he thinks about all those bankruptcies.
What if you closed your business in 2019 because you didn't have revenue, and then all of a sudden people are getting payments for their workers in 2020?
Yeah. No, I love to build character while others are accruing interest.
Exactly.
And like Hannity, bro, you had to leave college. Your education suffered because of the system, like by his own admission. It would have been better if you were able to get that education instead of like having to leave and still pay off that.
I got to
all be in a better position.
I will say this. Had he gotten that education, he may not have had this career.
It's the
That's
butterfly
what I'm saying.
effect.
We really it really hurt us here.
God, he just triggers me so much as one of those old like men that talk down to women
horrible.
like that and just have like it builds character. I mean, I've interacted with these douchebags many days.